It's Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers with tips and advice on landscaping and gardening. Here's Fernando Martinez.
Okay, yes, I am here. Thank you and welcome. Thanks for joining me today here on the patio. I'm excited to be here and very happy today because I am re-landscaping my backyard at my house. Finally, it's been a long time coming. And I know everybody I tell that says, oh, you know, you're the landscaper and you never have a backyard. Isn't that the way it goes? But truth be told, I've had a nice backyard for a long time and I have 2 dogs. So they've helped me out destroying it over the last 10 or so years. So my front yard's still nice because the dogs can't thrash anything in the front. And, you know, I've added plants and things through the years. I've got a bunch of rose bushes out front and, you know, I've been able to maintain it, but the point was to kind of say that, you know, after about 10 years or so, especially with dogs or letting things go, I wasn't really as motivated to keep that landscape up in the back. And so I found myself just kind of letting things go because I figured, well, the dogs are just going to trample it anyway. And after about 10 years or so, I've finally decided to take on this project and take everything out and start over. And I'm going right along the lines with everyone else that we do landscaping for. And I mean, you know, 99% of our customers want low maintenance, low water usage, you know, a lot of hardscape. And I am hook, line, sinker sold on that and going to be doing that. So I want you to come along with me on this journey. So today I want to talk about the demo phase, which is where I'm at right now, and getting bids for some other things that need to be done that are going to be outside of my trade and what I do. And I like to call people and get them in and let them do what they know how to do. And I'll go to work and do what I do to make money and pay for these things to get it done. So I want to talk a little bit about that and how that kind of process goes and, you know, how my experiences with it. Taking out, you know, concrete. I want to talk a little bit about design and all the different elements that can be put in there. So let's get started. We'll see how far we get through all these topics. And, you know, I'm sure this will be to be continued, I'm sure. So as I'm doing the demo phase of this backyard, and it's pretty small space, and a lot of yards now are going that direction. All the new homes that are being built and here on the Central Coast, the housing developments and things have really focused on smaller yards, more houses in their development. I'm sure it makes sense money-wise for a developer to put more homes and less yards in the homes, and, you know, whatever they can sell the homes for is to selling homes with big yards, or maybe people just don't really want all that space anyway, and it just might be a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of, you know, we want to put more houses on this development, people want small yards, and it's just kind of a win-win. So my yard is pretty small in the back, and you can really do a lot with small spaces. And one of the biggest things is to clear a lot of things out. Anything that's overgrown or big or tree branches hanging over. I've got these huge poplars behind my house from my neighbor, which are really cool because they're big, giant, tall trees. And when the wind blows, the leaves make a beautiful, nice sound. And they give us they make my backyard feel really tall, and they give us a nice backdrop instead of seeing, you know, a neighbor's house or whatever. It's a big property behind me. They have a huge yard, and I hear that guy out there doing a lot of maintenance and mowing and doing whatever he does, taking care of his property, but they use it. And if you have a big space and you can use it, more power to you. But his tree branches have been growing and growing over my side of the fence and kind of taken over my backyard. And I had planted a strawberry tree in the back there, and it had kind of gotten big and was growing into the house. And, you know, everything was just kind of getting let go, and it was time to just cut things back, clear it out. And oh my goodness, it feels so much better. It feels twice the size. So I wanted to bring that to you today and let you, you know, kind of envision that if you go home and you're looking at your yard, even if you're not going to be taking on a huge, re-landscaping project like I am, think about how overgrowth and tree branches and neighbors' bushes and trees are kind of encroaching in your yard. And if you have a smaller space, how would it feel if you trimmed all that stuff back, and it's just really kind of freeing. And I feel like I've got my yard back now, even though it looks like a bomb went off back there, but there's a lot more openness, a lot more space. So, in the process that I don't do tree work and we don't provide tree service with landscaping, it's such a broad kind of trade, but trees is kind of something that we don't do, and we kind of leave those to the tree guys. It's a whole different animal, really. And, when I called around and I wanted to get some quotes, it's not a big job, I'm sure, to them, because if I was asking to take all the poplars down, I'm sure I'd phone would be ringing back off the hook, calling me back or whatever. But I called 3-4 contractors, and I haven't been able to really get that good of a response of them calling me back. And so I started thinking about that. I thought, well, I hear that sometimes. If I call all these contractors, nobody calls me back. Don't they want my business, and people get their feelings hurt and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, they're just busy. I'm sure they have so many jobs, more than what they can deal with. My job probably doesn't sound that appealing to them because it's just trimming a few branches. It's probably half a day's worth of work with a couple guys or whatever and hauling off the branches. But I'm not going to get all mad, they didn't call me back or whatever, because, I've been there. It's tough sometimes to call every single customer back. We get overloaded with messages during the busy seasons, and you've got all these jobs going on and customers calling you, and then people trying to get new work, and can't always call. I believe me, I strive super hard to do it, and most of the times I'm able to get, everybody called back within a few days, if not the same day they called. But, don't just kind of take it with a grain of salt. Just be like, well, okay, they're too busy. They're kind of weeding themselves out, because even if they had called me and come out and then they couldn't get to it for 2-3 months or whatever, it's kind of a waste of time anyway. So I was able to find someone who is going to come out, and, I just wanted to remind everybody, don't pay a contractor up front for anything. You can give them a deposit, 10% or 1,000, whichever's less. That's the law, and they shouldn't be asking for any more than that. And then you make progress payments as they complete part of the job. My mother-in-law had an issue with a painter, and she was telling me this story and this and that. I said, oh my gosh, he started the job and then he just left, took off. He's not finishing the job. Her job's sitting there halfway done. And I said, please tell me you didn't pay him in full ahead of time. And sure enough, she had. But that's kind of the main thing, is don't do that. Take that advice and say, I'll give you a payment, I'll give you progress payments, but you only give them the progress payments for the part that they've finished and completed that part of the project. And if they did take off, well, you've paid them up to what they've done, and, you can get someone else to finish the rest if you had to, I guess. But, hopefully they'll come back, finish the job, and when they're 100% complete, that's when you pay them in full and never before. So think about that when you're hiring and getting bids and things like that, and think about who you want to work with. And if they don't call you back right away, then no big deal. Call someone else, or keep trying, keep calling and calling. If you really, that contractor, you've seen their work, they do a really good job, you figure, gosh, they're really busy, call again, leave another message, say, be cordial. Nobody wants to call back somebody who's upset that you haven't called me, and, it's like, okay, I don't want to call that guy. So think about it. And it's just part of the doing business in the busy season. And, when the economy is really good, that's just part of the deal. Now, I want to talk a little bit about concrete. And I got my house and the concrete was already in my backyard. I'm a big pavers guy, as you know. You've heard me talk about it over and over again. Pavers. Now, if you have concrete and it's perfectly fine and it's working, there's no reason. I didn't see any reason to take it out just because I wanted the pavers there. I like to use things until they, need to be repaired. I would never re-pour concrete, because now that it's all cracked up, those same poplar trees that are gorgeous and need to be trimmed, their roots are growing under my wall and lifting up the concrete, which is one of the main kind of caveats, is the reason why I kind of started this whole project. And I wanted to get rid of this tripping hazard. And I, of course, want pavers back there. So now is my opportunity to do that. And it just feels so good to get that cracked, ugly concrete out of there, broken up. Now, one thing that I'm doing is I have this little area behind my garage and on the side of my garage that I never really use or go back there, but it would be nice, again, to have access. There was tree growth, there was weeds all in there, and I have my guys clear it all out, and it just feels amazing, just so open. And what we're doing is I'm cutting the concrete, the parts that aren't cracked, and we're cutting 2 foot by 2 foot squares out of it with a concrete saw. And I'm going to take those over to that area and use them there as a walkway and just kind of fill in both sides around down the one side of my garage and down the other. So I think we're going to use like 40 pieces, 40 squares. And it's kind of a modern look too. If you had to pour concrete or if you were using concrete, like instead of taking it out and throwing it away, at least, I mean, it gets recycled. I mean, all the concrete that we take out, we take over to a concrete recycling plant and they grind it up and they turn it into road base. So it doesn't get wasted. But if you can use it, why not? And then especially in an area, maybe you have a walkway on the side of a house or a trash area, or, you know, you want to put a shed or something in, you can use some of the, I don't like the broken concrete look where it's trying to look like flagstone or something. I've never really been a fan of that. But if you cut it up, it takes a little bit longer, of course, and you've got to get the saw and it's loud, and you got to put the hearing protection on and goggles and all that kind of good stuff. And it has a water attachment, so there's not a whole lot of dust coming up, but we're able to cut it into the 2 by 2 squares, and with 2 strong guys and a dolly, you can move that around and use them. And then what I'm going to do is we're lining them up all in a straight line. I say I, but I mean we, of course. We're putting them in a straight line and leaving about 6 inches of gaps in between the concrete squares. And it just looks like a pathway going down the behind my garage. And I'm just going to put rock around it. And that way I use the broken up concrete that we're getting rid of. And, we're going to be digging down and putting the road base and getting ready for pavers there. So I really am excited about that. And I'm going to keep you guys posted on the progress and what's going on and my own trials and tribulations of going through the construction process and, living. It is a little bit difficult, and I don't, what do I do with my dogs? Because right now that I have them in the crates while the guys are working, I've had to let them out a couple times during the day, and I'm kind of getting the inside feel of what it feels like, what we do for a living, which is go and tear up people's yards, and they're living with construction as long as we're there until we can finish. And so that's another thing about the whole giving them, the contractors or whoever's doing work for you money before they finish that part of the job, is to really keep them motivated to finish and not pull off and not leave and go do another job or whatever it is that people do. And I understand sometimes, you've got to do a couple, 2, 3 jobs at a time and keep an efficiency with crews and guys and stuff, but you always want to be the priority and make sure that they know that you want to be a priority and get your job done as quickly as possible. And so you're under construction for as little as time as need be. Okay, so that's that. Now I want to talk about some design elements, and I am really excited about this for my space back there. I definitely want a space for a water feature, and it's such a huge thing in a design element because it provides sound. Nothing else really in landscaping, mostly when you're doing plantings and irrigation and pavers or walls or outdoor kitchens and whatever, all these, projects that we do, they don't really bring an element of sound. It's all sight. It's all visual. So having the sound of water is absolutely huge. Even if you do something really simple, or if you want to do, going as far as putting in, waterfalls and streams or whatever. But I am opting for turning my fountain into a fountainscape. And what I mean by that is we have these big giant tubs that we can bury in the ground They have a top to them. They're made out of a really thick plastic. They never leak, and they hold like 90 gallons of water. And I can put up to 1,100, I think maybe 1,200 pounds on top. And any small fountain or basalt stone or an urn or a bubbling pot with rocks or something, anything can go on top and become a water feature and get that sound. So my wife has had this fountain of hers for a long time, and it has sentimental value. And so we want to keep it, but I'm always frustrated with fountains. Very small amount of water, small, tiny little pumps. I can barely get my hands in there to try to put the tube on, or the pump clogs with leaves because it's like a big leaf catcher. And it's just, they run out of water really fast to get every other day, no more than 2-3 days, and you got to add water again. I mean, I have to go home every day and add water to this thing. It's ridiculous, so we don't run it. So with this 90-gallon reservoir of water and covered with rocks, nothing can get down to the base, I'm going to put that fountain on top and put it out in the planter. It was sitting on our concrete patio that we had, but now it's going to go in the planter, surrounded by rock and cobble and boulders, and it's going to have a really nice water feature and that sound, that effect. And in my opinion, every single yard needs a water feature. I don't know. I could walk in someone's backyard and say, "Oh, you don't need a water feature here." Yeah, that doesn't make sense here. It makes sense on every single one, every yard, unless you just really don't like the sound of water. I don't know very many people that wouldn't like. I mean, if you had roaring rapids or something that was too loud, I could certainly understand. But I'm talking about a nice, mellow, soft sound of soothing water. I don't know how that could make anybody mad or upset. I think it could only help. So think about that. If you don't have a water feature, definitely please get one somehow, some way. It really is nice. Also, what I'm doing is I'm going to pre-run wire and sleeves. So it doesn't matter if you're doing pavers, if you're pouring concrete, or even if you're putting DG down or whatever, run sleeves. If you're ever cutting off an area from a planter to another planter, or you're going from where the valves are out to, the planters, or you're putting in a patio of pavers or whatever, run empty pipes. They call them sleeves. And then you can run wire and drip and whatever later. So I'm definitely doing that because I'm definitely planning on having landscape lighting. And again, I mean, I don't know what landscaping that's completely dark at night, especially if you've done a lot of work or paid a lot of money to have this nice landscape. Dusk is a really magical time. The lights, and even if you just uplift the trees, it's very dramatic. You can be very selective on what you choose to light. Even a mediocre yard can look spectacular in the evening if you light it correctly. So lighting, very, very important. And it is really nice because you can open the blinds at night if you have some sort of privacy in the backyard. I mean, I love seeing the landscape lighting from inside the house at night. Some people say, "Oh, I don't go outside at night. I never see them." But, think about how the night lighting outside would look from inside the house, and design it that way. So think about, the whole big kind of picture. Even if you don't have an exact plan or some big elaborate drawing or whatever, if I might have landscape lighting at some point, make sure that there's access to a plug, or that, like we were talking about, these sleeves, or pre-run the wire ahead of time. So yeah, definitely. And that goes for, if you're running a fire pit, obviously you're going to have to run the gas line first. Don't let those things be afterthoughts. And yes, I am definitely having a fire pit in my backyard. Again, the warmth. Oh my gosh, it's just another element to be able to feel your landscape with that heat. I mean, to hear that sound of the water, to visually see all these beautiful, gorgeous things, it's amazing. I want to talk about a couple more things on the other side of the break. If you miss any part of this radio show or want to hear any of our landscape gardening tips and advice, radio shows, go to our YouTube channel, Chaparral Pavers on YouTube, and you can get all the shows there. You can, of course, access it from our website, which is ilovetocomehome.com. We'll see you on the other side of the break.
You're listening to Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on California's Central Coast. Here on 1240 AM and 99.5 FM, KSMA.
This show is brought to you by Airval Block. Concrete paving stones or pavers are not all created equal. Airval Block pavers are created from a dry mix of gravel, sand, cement, and color. With very little water used, they're super strong. They won't crack or fade. And to be an Airval Block paver, the gravel and sand come from right here on the Central Coast, supporting our local community. Airval Block is the only local manufacturer of concrete masonry products like pavers, mortarless retaining wall blocks. Airval Block products are high quality for peace of mind, and there are many colors to choose from. And if you're not sure which products you need or how to use them, you will always get expert advice from the staff at Airval Block. Products made on the Central Coast for the Central Coast. Visit their fully landscaped outdoor showroom to see the many ways you can use Airval Block products at number 1 Suburban Road in San Luis Obispo, or go online at airvalblock.com.
If you're thinking about installing a new paver patio or paver driveway, check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetocomehome.com. Serving the Central Coast since 2001, Chaparral Pavers will work with you to get it right and complete the job to your specifications, as customer service is king at Chaparral Pavers. Paver driveways are stylish and durable and guaranteed to never crack. If your old concrete driveway or entryway is a hazardous cracking mess, it's time to call Chaparral Pavers. Go to their website, ilovetocomehome.com. You'll find all the information you need. Check out photographs of past installations and reviews from Central Coast residents who have used Chaparral Pavers. And don't forget, all installations are guaranteed for the life of your home. So check out Chaparral Pavers online at ilovetocomehome.com. Chaparral Pavers, they'll make you love to come home. Now, back to Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers on KSMA.
And we're back. Okay, we are talking about all things landscaping, landscape design. We're talking about my backyard finally here today, and just, motivating you and hopefully giving you some inspiration if you want to cut back some big tree limbs or bushes or branches or neighbors' vines or whatever it is. Kind of get some of your yard back, open up that space, make it feel big and open and airy and nice, especially if you have a smaller yard like I do. It really makes a big difference. And of course, if you're re-landscaping, just get in there. And I have a couple citrus trees. I really hacked them back hard just to reshape them, get some fresh new growth, put some fertilizer on them. I'm only saving my strawberry tree, 3 citrus trees, and 1 palm tree, and everything else is coming out, including my patio, everything. So we're going to be putting in pavers, fire pit, lighting, water feature. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I really want to, have you come along for the ride. So thanks for joining me, and let's get back to it. So I want to talk about speakers, because there is another thing that provides sound besides the water feature, and that's outdoor speakers, and also gardening privacy panels. And I don't think you've heard me talk about that before. I don't think we've covered it on these shows here. So I'll tell you about them. And they're really neat. They're actually a hardwood that's grown in Australia, and they make a composite out of it. And it's all smashed into, kind of looks like a smaller sheet of plywood. But it's all brown, stained, beautiful, nice dark, like mahogany color brown. And it's just this composite material that's glued together, maybe, I don't know, half-inch thick, and it's 4 feet wide by 6 feet. And they have these patterns cut out of them. And so there's a little bit of light that you can get through, or some kind of, if you wanted to see the fence as a backdrop or whatever. I have a block wall. It's just kind of a blah, kind of this tan block wall. And the thing is, you can't have a fence or a wall higher than 6 feet, by code. It's illegal unless you get a permit or whatever, or otherwise people would have 10-foot high fences or whatever. So, but there's no law against privacy panels or trellises, or lattice work with vines or whatever. Those can be as tall as they want to be as long as they're off of the wall a little bit. So I'm going to go up like 8 feet high with these panels and posts, and I'm going to put them along and kind of make the yard feel taller and make it feel very private. So think about gardening privacy panels of some sort. I'm just kind of making up this terminology here, but whether it be, we've all seen that kind of cross-hatch lattice. They do make a thick version of that, by the way. I've seen the really cheap stuff. Stay away from that white vinyl. I mean, maybe if you have the right spot for it, or if you're tying in that color white somewhere else, and then definitely grow a vine on it. But they make wood lattice, and they make it a thick version of it that can be used. And again, with plants, there's also these now. They're have these designs on them. They're really neat. So I wanted to tell you about that, and there'll be more to come as I am installing my yard. And also speakers. So outdoor speakers can be very advantageous and can really set a mood for landscaping. And it just, I guess it all depends on what type of music you like and how you set it up. Now, I just so happen to have a vinyl set up in my garage. I love music, and I'm a musician, and I know you've heard me tell you that before on this show, but I'm going to have outdoor speakers where I can hook up my vinyl setup to that, and I'll be able to go in there, play an album, and hear that album in my yard as I'm relaxing out there by the fire pit, or listening to the water feature, or barbecuing, or whatever it is. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And again, we're going to be talking a lot more about this as my yard continues. So that is about all the time we have today. Thank you for being here with me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Check out our YouTube channel, Chaparral Pavers. I know I keep saying it, but that's where all the radio shows are, so that you don't miss anything, and you can always check them out at your leisure on your time. Chaparral Pavers on YouTube. And you've never heard me say our website, ilovetoComeHome.com. Check us out there, and if you need any help, feel free to give us a call. See you next week.
This has been Patio Side Chats with Fernando Martinez from Chaparral Pavers. Go to ilovetoComeHome.com to find out more, or call 805-588-6917. And be sure and tune in next week at this same time for Patio Side Chats here on KSMA.